Have you ever snapped at a loved one after a stressful day? Or sent that angry text you immediately regretted? Or maybe you've made an impulsive decision that later seemed completely irrational? What if I told you that these moments don't define you, but your response to them does? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most powerful mental shifts you can make, training your mind to respond instead of react. This isn't just some feel-good advice. This is practical wisdom that goes back over 2,000 years to the Stoic philosophers, who understood something fundamental about human nature. While we can't control what happens to us, we have absolute power over how we respond. By the end of this video, you'll have concrete techniques to create that crucial space between stimulus and response, the space where your freedom and power truly lie. The problem with reactions. Before we get to the solution, let's understand what's actually happening in your brain when you react. When something triggers you, whether it's criticism, disappointment, or even just heavy traffic, your amygdala, the primitive fight or flight part of your brain, takes over. It floods your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Your prefrontal cortex, the rational decision-making part of your brain, gets temporarily hijacked. This was incredibly useful when we were facing predators thousands of years ago. Not so helpful in a disagreement with your partner or during a tense meeting with your boss. Here's what reactions typically look like. They're immediate and automatic. They're driven by emotion rather than reason. They're often disproportionate to the situation. They frequently make things worse, not better. They leave you feeling out of control. Let me share a personal example. A few years ago, I received some harsh feedback on a project I'd poured my heart into. My immediate reaction? Defensiveness, anger, even thoughts of quitting. I fired off a heated email that I'm still embarrassed about today. That's the cost of reaction, damaged relationships, missed opportunities, and the regret that follows. But there's a better way, and the Stoics mapped it out for us centuries ago. The Stoic Alternative responding. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." This is the essence of responding rather than reacting. When you respond, you create space between the stimulus and your action. You choose your actions deliberately. You maintain your principles even under pressure. You focus only on what you can control. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is what responding looks like in practice. Something happens, good or bad, and instead of being swept away by your immediate emotional response, you pause. You remind yourself of your values. You choose a response that aligns with who you want to be, not just how you feel in the moment. Now, this doesn't mean suppressing emotions or becoming a robot. The Stoics weren't about denying feelings. They were about not being ruled by them. There's a crucial difference. The dichotomy of control. At the heart of this shift is what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control, the understanding that some things are within our control and others are not. In the words of Epictetus, some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Not within our power are our body, our property, reputation, office, and, in a word, whatever is not of our own doing. So let's break this down practically. Not in your control, other people's actions and opinions, external events and circumstances, the past or future, economic conditions, the weather in your control, your judgments and interpretations, your responses and decisions, your values and principles, your attitude and perspective, your efforts and actions. When you truly internalize this distinction, something powerful happens. You stop wasting mental energy on things you can't influence, and you focus entirely on what you can. Think about how much time we spend worrying about things we can't change. The traffic jam, the rude comment, the economic downturn, the weather forecast. Now imagine redirecting all that mental energy toward what you actually can influence, your own mind and actions. That's where your true power lies. Practical techniques. So how do we actually do this? Let me share 5 Stoic-inspired techniques that have transformed my own ability to respond rather than react. 1. The pause practice. Seneca advised, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." When you feel an emotional reaction building, pause. Take a deep breath. Count to 10 if you need to. This tiny delay creates the space in which you can choose a response rather than being driven by a reaction. In practice, this might look like waiting 24 hours before responding to a triggering email, excusing yourself for a 5-minute break during a heated conversation, taking 3 deep breaths before responding to criticism. The pause isn't about avoiding the situation, it's about approaching it with your full faculties intact. 2. The premeditation of adversity. The Stoics practiced what they called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This meant regularly visualizing challenges and setbacks to prepare your mind for them. Here's how to practice this. Each morning, spend 2 to 3 minutes imagining potential challenges you might face that day. For each challenge, visualize yourself responding calmly and in alignment with your values. Remind yourself, this might happen today, and if it does, I'll be ready. You rob them of their power to trigger automatic reactions by rehearsing potential difficulties. When the real situation arises, your mind is already prepared to respond thoughtfully. 3. The perspective shift. Marcus Aurelius suggested, when jarred unavoidably by circumstances, revert at once to yourself and don't lose the rhythm more than you can help. You'll have a better grasp of the harmony if you keep going back to it. This technique involves zooming out to see the bigger picture. When triggered, ask, will this matter in a year? In 5 years? Consider, is my reaction proportionate to the actual situation? Reflect, how would the person I aspire to be handle this? This wider perspective dramatically reduces the intensity of your emotional reactions and helps you respond from a place of wisdom rather than impulse. The value anchor Epictetus advised his students to have their principles ready for every emergency. Identify 3 to 5 core values that define the person you want to be. Write them down. Carry them with you. When faced with a triggering situation, consult these values before responding. For example, if one of your values is kindness, ask yourself, what would a kind response look like here, even if I'm feeling frustrated? Values function as an anchor in stormy emotional seas. They keep you grounded when your feelings might otherwise sweep you away. 5. The reflection practice. Finally, the Stoics emphasize the importance of regular self-reflection. Seneca wrote, each day acquire something that will fortify you against poverty, against death, indeed against other misfortunes as well. Each evening, take 5 minutes to review your day. When did I react rather than respond? What triggered me? How could I have responded differently? What can I learn from this? This practice builds your self-awareness over time, helping you identify patterns and improve your responses in the future. Real-world applications. Now let's look at how this Stoic approach applies in different areas of life. Relationships. Imagine your partner says something that hurts your feelings. A reaction might be to lash out or withdraw. A response would involve pausing to acknowledge your hurt feelings, considering your partner's intentions and perspective, clearly communicating how you feel without blame, working toward understanding and resolution. This approach builds stronger relationships rather than damaging them in moments of emotional intensity. Work. When you receive critical feedback on a project, a reaction might be defensiveness or discouragement. A response might involve thanking the person for their input, taking time to separate helpful feedback from what doesn't apply, using valid criticism to improve your work, maintaining confidence in your abilities while being open to growth. This response turns criticism into fuel for improvement rather than a source of distress. Social media. We've all seen how reactive social media can become. When you see a post that triggers you, a response might involve asking yourself if engagement is even necessary, considering multiple perspectives before commenting, writing from a place of understanding rather than outrage, focusing on adding value rather than venting emotion. This approach allows you to engage with ideas without being consumed by the outrage machine. Internal challenges. Even our reactions to our own thoughts and feelings can benefit from this approach. When you make a mistake or face a setback, responding rather than reacting might look like acknowledging the disappointment without harsh self-judgment, extracting lessons from the experience, focusing on your next constructive step, treating yourself with the same compassion you'd offer a good friend. This internal response builds resilience rather than perpetuating cycles of self-criticism. The benefits: when you consistently train your mind to respond rather than react, you'll experience profound benefits. Greater peace of mind. You're no longer at the mercy of external triggers. Improved relationships. Your thoughtful responses build trust and understanding. Better decisions. You make choices based on values and reason, not temporary emotions. Reduced regret. You'll have fewer words and actions to wish you could take back. Increased resilience. Challenges become opportunities for growth rather than sources of distress. More consistent character. You become someone who lives their values even under pressure. The Stoics would say this is the path to true freedom, not freedom from difficulty, but freedom in how you face it. Conclusion: as we wrap up, I want to emphasize that this practice, training your mind to respond rather than react, is exactly that, a practice. It's not about perfection. There will still be times when you react impulsively. The Stoics understood this too. Epictetus said, "Don't expect to be a Socrates overnight. What matters is your commitment to the process, catching yourself sooner, recovering more quickly, and gradually expanding that crucial space between stimulus and response." Remember the words of Viktor Frankl, who was deeply influenced by Stoic philosophy. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Your freedom lies in that space. Your power lives in that pause. If you found value in today's video, please consider subscribing and sharing it with someone who might benefit. And let me know in the comments, what's one situation where you want to practice responding rather than reacting this week? Until next time, remember, life is about what happens to you, but even more about how you respond to it.